talking points. Apparently it's been a cold winter in places in the US, and Fox News has had a field day
Right.
with the freak, ice storms in Atlanta, Georgia, and places like that. The second one, which is not an anti-talking point, it seems like a fatalistic talking point. Oh, well, there's nothing we can do. There's no way China isn't going to want to have a billion cars on the road. There's no way that India is going to scale back production from their kind of...
Right.
You can't tell the developing world,
Not to
the
develop.
Western world can't tell the developing world, you can't produce.
Right. I mean, to a certain extent, there's a certain moral validity to that,
Yeah.
because you say that they're using carbon. They're using carbon to get people out of poverty, whereas we're using carbon to keep Houston at 65 degrees in July. So I think there's a little bit of there is a moral issue there. However, I think there's a lot. India is surrounded on 3 parts by water. Bangladesh is under sea level, and India realizes that if Bangladesh is a basket case, then that rebounds on them. China has many major cities that are near coastlines. I think they're aware of the problem. I think, like anything else, you could say the same thing about, back in the day, we shouldn't get rid of nukes because the Russians will never do that. Eventually people do make sensible decisions if everybody makes them at the same time. And I think there is a potential there. I don't think China wants Shanghai to go underwater. I think they realize what's happening. So I'm not. That's like the tar sands argument. Well, if they don't do it this way, they're going to do it some other way. We're not in control of what happens. We just need to deal with today, and then we'll worry about tomorrow. But I think everybody's waiting for the United States to make a serious gesture. The European Union has already committed to 40% reductions in CO2 by within the next little while. I don't know what the year is, but that's a major economy. I think that everybody will be willing to do that once they see the Americans making a real effort. I think. Overall impacts of climate change: loss of biodiversity, which is plant and animal species die off; sea level rise; increase in extreme weather events; freshwater scarcity; disease vector shifts; reduced agricultural yields; and climate refugees. So freshwater scarcity is if there's a people, a society that drinks glacial melt, then when the glaciers melt faster, then first they have flooding and then they have no water. Disease vector shifts means that things don't die off, mosquitoes don't die off in the wintertime, so they get further north, whatever. People aren't habituated to it. You see that in Colorado, actually. Colorado's a little bit of a petri dish for this. So the bugs don't die off, because it doesn't freeze as hard, so they eat the trees, which makes the trees more susceptible to wildfires, so you have wildfires, and then when the trees are gone, there's nothing to break the flooding, so then you have flooding. I think, we see this in, I lived in New York for years, and, to see the subways filled up with water a couple of years ago, just this week there's a 500-year drought in California, there's 500-year floods in England. Philadelphia has had more 6-inch or more snow events this winter than any other winter. Kind of going back to what you were saying. Atlanta's shut down, Washington's shut down from snow. These are all, it's one thing to say, well, we had a dust bowl before, but we didn't have a dust bowl and this and that and the other thing all happening at the same time.
Deadly heat waves in Europe too.
Right.
So the cyclic argument that people are saying, well, it's just cycling in and out over the last millennia. It's just.
Well, I'll go back to this one. This is from 1850. This could go back further. It's just 4,000 years. The cycles happen in geologic time. Most of those cycles happen over thousands of years.
Right.
We're talking about 250 years. Where the temperatures are going up, and they follow along with. This is the CO2. This is the CO2. Oops. Oh, come back. This is the CO2 and the temperature. So this is happening over 100 years, which is not geologic time. Climate refugees. This is a big deal to the national security apparatus. They think that the national security people like stability, and they're not going to get it. I mentioned Bangladesh. Bangladesh, I think, has 75 million people, 30 million of whom live under sea level, or within a meter of sea level. So if the sea level rises, as it will, then they're going to be displaced. But India doesn't want them. India doesn't want 30 million climate refugees. So somebody who lives in scrubland doesn't work anymore, the water source dries up, they move somewhere else to somebody else's scrubland, and then there's war. Right? That's resources, and water is always, if you look at the Civil War, one of the reasons is usually water resources. And this is a report in Nature, the journal Nature, and the editor of it said it was a shock seeing how much change. She was studying biodiversity, which is species die-off. So she said, even with the relatively modest amount of climate change that we've had so far, we're seeing profound effects. You're already seeing profound effects. I mean, we can see it in the newspaper. So what's going to be like when it's 1.5 degrees or 2.5 degrees or 3.5 degrees? What's it going to be like then? And that's really the question that we're facing. Impacts locally and regionally. This is wildfires in Colorado. These are both Colorado. I mentioned that already. Last year we had an okay summer with water-wise, rain-wise, but the 2 summers before we had drought. They predict that western Kansas will continue to be drier and drier. They'll have fewer and more intense rainfall activities, but it won't really address the underlying problem. Plus they're using up the aquifer, so that's not going to help either. And then we have a lot of months in a row. I'm actually not sure if this made it through the winter. I think it's global temperatures, but August 2013 was the 342nd consecutive month of above average global temperatures, meaning the 20th century average. Above the 20th century average, so that's 27 years. So if you have children or grandchildren who are under 27, then they've never seen a month that was less than the 20th century average, temperature-wise.
I missed that. I missed that last point.
So if you have, so it's been above the 20th century average of temperature for 342 consecutive months, which is 27 years. So anybody under 27 has never seen a month in their life that was less than the 20th century average, globally. I haven't seen whether this made it through the winter. I'll have to look that one up. All right, this is a cartoon, Tom Tolis from the Washington Post, who does great climate stuff. So I'm going to read this to you because I'm sure some of you can't see it. So it's an Uncle Sam, and then there's a voice off. So it says, global warming isn't happening, it is happening. If it's happening, maybe it's a good thing. It's not a good thing. If it's not a good thing, it can't be confirmed. It has been confirmed. If it's confirmed, maybe it's not caused by humans. It is caused by humans. Even if it's caused by humans, maybe it will fix itself. It won't fix itself. If it won't fix itself, there's nothing we can do. There are things we can do. If there are things we can do that are too expensive, they're not too expensive. If they're not too expensive, we can postpone doing them. We can postpone doing them. And he says, what do you mean? This conversation has taken over a decade already. And the real punchline of it is that this is dated 2004. So it's already another decade. That's the sad part, right? That's the worst. That's worse. I want to talk about the moral issue here. Now, I talk to people of faith because when we're in a position where people don't want to listen to the truth, or they want to put their fingers in their ears and they don't want to deal with what's actually happening, I think that's a place where people of faith can really witness to the truth and sort of keep it on the agenda. Not everybody has lived up to that responsibility, but that's what we've always tried to do, is go to church and have people understand what we're trying to say and maybe convince a few more people. But the moral issue is, so people who are, I always say this to Christian audiences, Christians have spent a huge amount of time and effort doing what they call mission work in the developing world. Any Methodists here? You know, UMCOR, right? Which is a relief, Commission on Relief. Education, healthcare, nothing but nets. So the very people that you've spent all this time and effort and money helping in the developing world are the very people who stand to suffer the most from this issue. They have the least responsibility for causing the problem and the most to lose. Because here in Kansas, in America, we are blessed. We can turn up the air conditioning if it gets too hot. You know, if we run out of water in western Kansas, we can build an aqueduct, maybe. You know, it's another thing they want to do, instead of actually saving water. But people in Nairobi, people in Kenya, people in the Philippines, people in Indonesia, people in Guyana, they can't do that. So we're causing their distress, and I think that's the underlying moral issue. Because what somebody said, what you do to the least of these, you do to me. I think somebody once said that. I think a Jewish guy said that, actually. I'm not mistaken. All right, this is a statement from the Methodist Church. I could have picked any denomination. Every time I do a presentation at a church, I Google. I don't have to so much anymore because I have a lot of them in my computer now. But I'll Google Methodist and climate change or Presbyterian climate change, and all God's children have statements. So I take the statement and I put it up there. So this is basically this is the Methodist statement. There are cognate statements from many other denominations. So if you're Brethren or whatever, got any Presbyterians? Got any Lutherans? All right, they can. What else? What else you got here? You got
United Church of Christ.
United Church of Christ, right?
Unitarians.
Unitarians, right? Okay.
Episcopalian.
Episcopalian. Okay, Episcopalians are doing a good job on this, actually.
Quakers.
All right, as a matter of stewardship and justice, Christians must take action now to reduce global warming pollution and stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters around the world whose land, livelihood, and lives are threatened by the global climate crisis. So that's pretty typical. So if there's somebody in a church who says, climate change doesn't mean anything or we shouldn't do anything about it, at least I point out that the denomination has a statement. It might not be motivational for everybody, but you do belong to a church that has a statement. Kansas IPL fulfills our mission in 3 ways. We help churches do energy efficiency upgrades on their spaces, so they use less energy, or they can put renewables on their buildings. We would encourage that also. We teach and preach about the faith basis of environmental stewardship. And we advocate on the public policy level for policies that support clean energy. And at this time of year, I spend a lot of my time in Topeka. Advocating is my lobby badge. Houses of worship tend to be older. They tend to be built for awe rather than efficiency. So you think about the 30-foot ceiling. Where's all the heat in February? Right? And built when energy was cheap. So there are churches in western Kansas, particularly in rural areas, that have half-time pastors because the building is too expensive. So therefore, the energy and electricity costs are usually a church's second biggest outlay, budget outlay, right after the astronomical salary of the pastor. And what you spend there cannot be spent on mission or faith education or worship or the choir or anything else that people really want to spend their church money on. Congregations are making a difference. This is, speaking of Episcopalian, this is from, did you know Dave Owen, Paul? Dave Owen was on the test team at Trinity. Trinity Episcopalian, right?
I know his widow.
Yeah. So he was our president. He was the president of our steering committee. This is a UU in a Unitarian in Wichita. They put in an efficient dishwasher. This is flat solar panels. This is on an outbuilding of a Presbyterian church in Prairie Village. In Prairie Village, you can't show the neighbors anything, so they had to have flat panels. And then this is the geothermal heat pump at the church in Lindsborg. That's a Lutheran ELCA church. And Kansas IPL is making a difference. I'll take a point, I'll let you read this, but I'll take a moment now to talk about some of the stuff that we're doing in Topeka this year. If you actually should get on my mailing list because I'll send out stuff. But we have 3 main issues right now. One is net metering, which is if you put solar on your house, you can put power into the grid and take it out when you're not producing as much. The utilities don't like it, so they're trying to overturn it, and so we're negotiating on that. The renewable portfolio standard holds that 20% of Kansas's energy load is supposed to be from renewable sources by 2020. This is one that the climate change denier contingent really wants to overturn. Although last year, this was kind of a hopeful sign. We thought we were going to get steamrolled last year after the previous election, but this thing did not pass last year. They tried it in several states and it didn't pass in any of them. So this is where you kind of go, there's 19 Kansans, including farmers and ranchers and eco-devo people and nuns and stuff, and they're all saying we should keep this, and then there's 3 right-wing think tanks who are saying we should overturn it, and even Kansas legislators can notice that equation.
What's the name of the bill?
The RPS, RPS, Renewable Portfolio Standard. I have numbers for all these bills too. If you're interested, you can come see me after. So net metering is one. RPS. There's an efficiency bill that's being heard tomorrow. And then, did you hear about the climate denial resolution? So the president is proposing a climate action plan which relies heavily on mothballing old and inefficient coal plants and putting new carbon standards to lower carbon emissions 17% over the next 15 years. So, as part of the politics, people don't like anything that the president does, so they're against this. But there was a bill. The head of the Energy and Environment Committee in the House, the Kansas House, is a climate denier, like a real, like I know PowerPoint presentation climate denier. You've met people like this, but he's in charge of a major committee. So he said, we were opposed to the president's plan because carbon dioxide doesn't cause climate change. So we were like, we got kind of up in arms about it, but they stripped all the science out of the bill. So they still don't like Obama's climate action plan, but they took out all the bad science, which I actually think is a hopeful sign. Because even in Kansas, this kind of climate denial cannot get majority support. And I think that's actually a good thing. From politics point of view, or from my fundraising point of view, it's great for me to go around going, climate denial, Kansas House supports climate denial. But from a policy point of view, for actually getting things done, I want the conversation to be about policies, not the science. Yeah.
How often in faith communities do you run into the attitude that humans can't cause climate change, only God causes climate change?
I mean, it happens. I think that one of the things that somebody said to me was, and this happens in the legislature more than happens, I don't really get invited to really right-wing churches very much. You'd be surprised. As much as I actually admire the Old Testament, the residual Old Testament figure that I represent, they're not necessarily into the politics of it. But I did sit down with somebody and she said, they said, well, Jesus is going to come back any day now, and we're not going to really have much of an impact on that. And I'm like, what do you say to that, right? So the answer to what you say to that is, it's not your business when that's going to happen. You have to do what you're supposed to do on a daily basis. It's not up to you to decide when the rapture is going to take place. So that's basically the answer I give to that. I mean, you have to do the best thing you can do on a daily basis, not expecting that, yeah.
Reminds me of a quote, though I think it's apocryphal, from Martin Luther, when asked, what if you learned that the apocalypse was going to happen tomorrow? And he said, oh, well, I plant a tree.
Right.
That was kind of what you're just saying.
Yeah, that's a takeoff on I think it's a rabbinic story where they say, that somebody is planting a tree and the Messiah comes, you finish planting the tree first.
Yeah. And
then you go to greet the Messiah. What your faith community can do: preach and teach about the faith basis of environmental stewardship, incorporate creation care into your community's prayer life, perform an energy audit on your facility and do the upgrades that it shows, promote and use renewable energy, decrease and offset your carbon usage, support public policies that support energy efficiency and renewable energy. Now I have two brochures. The blue one is an individual membership brochure. If you're interested in knowing more about the organization or possibly getting involved, you can take one of these. And the one with the green stripe on it is a congregational membership brochure. So if you'd like to take this to your congregation, if you live in Lawrence, chances are they've heard of us already. But this is a congregational membership brochure, and you can feel free to take that. If you care to be on my mailing list, I'm going to pass this around. If you're not already on my mailing list, I send out emails, so I need the email address for this to be useful. If you'd like to be on my email list, then go ahead and give me your name and your email address. And I'll start that here. You're already on it. What do individuals do? What can individuals do to lower their carbon footprint or to have an effect on this? What have you guys done? What has anybody done?
Recycle.
Recycle, okay.
And energy audit.
Energy audit. Dwight, can you find a pen, please?
Took advantage of the Efficiency Kansas program to get the house insulated and switch to high efficiency furnace.
Right, putting in high efficiency furnaces. When you have to change your furnace, I get the 80 or 90% efficient furnace.
Insulating the house was amazing.
Insulating the house, right? Doing the windows, caulking the windows. Even if you don't want to replace all the windows, you can still put caulk around them and put screens on them or film on them. There's lots of things you can do. Yeah.
Replacing the windows is not energy efficient in most cases.
Right. It's not cost efficient because the cost savings, the savings of what you're going to save doesn't pay for the windows.
Yeah, the payback period usually doesn't pencil out. The other thing is, in many cases, you're throwing away windows that are very durable, very repairable, 4 windows that are literally replacement windows, which means you'll have to replace them again in 10 or 15 years.
Right.
That, the historic preservation community has been very interested in this whole issue, and we've commissioned a number of studies now. The data are really clear that the replacement windows really don't work. In most cases, that's something that's being sold by the replacement window industry.
Right. Another thing that's really powerful is timer thermostats. Timer thermostats really have an effect. That's actually probably the fastest, cheapest thing you can do is set back your thermostats for when you're not home. If you set like for 8 hours, if you really set it back aggressively, like into the 60s or even into the high 50s, you will get a great deal of savings from that. That's a huge thing, especially in institutional buildings like churches. So here's some other stuff. Vampire power. So when you have a strip, when you have all your stuff plugged into a strip, you turn off the strip at night when you go to bed, like all your TV stuff or all your computer stuff. Get rid of the beer fridge. Beer fridge, old fridge in a garage, right? You know, you don't need it. It's only 1 6-pack. You can just put it in the regular fridge. Buy used, buy local, walk less, drive less, walk or bike more. Lower your carbon footprint, which means eating locally, buying from the farmer's market. Okay. Take a Sabbath. This is one of my favorites because if you do it like the way it's kind of intended to be done, then you're getting off the consumerist gerbil wheel for 1/7 of your life. Right? Don't run to Target on Saturday. Don't take the day, or Sunday, I guess is for you. Take the day and be with your family, and go to church and have lunch and go for a walk, and stay out of Target. Utilize renewable energy. There's a leasing system now. There's a bank in Baldwin City that will forward you the money so that you can put solar on your house, and you will pay almost exactly what you're paying for utilities now. And in 15 years, you'll own the equipment, and everything after that will be free. Put in insulation. That was one you mentioned. And then make sure your elected representatives know that there are people of faith who care about these issues. So Lawrence actually usually is pretty good on this issue. I mean, we don't usually have too much trouble with the legislators from Lawrence. If you're not from Lawrence, then is there anybody who does not live in Lawrence itself? Okay, so like Davis, all these guys. Marcy Francisco is one of our closest friends. I'm sure you're aware. Become a member of Kansas IPL. Should I pass the hat? Is it appropriate for me to pass the hat? Okay, so I'm an itinerant climate preacher who goes around talking to churches about this issue. I don't get supported by Coke money or anything else. I'm completely supported by the people who believe in what I'm doing. So if you can see a way clear to making a small donation, I would very much appreciate it. And Kansas IPL is the most effective faith-based voice for climate stewardship, environmental stewardship in the state. There is nobody else who's doing what we're doing. Together we can save energy, save money, and put our faith into action to address climate change. So that's my presentation. I will